Let's talk about Stryker now, which makes hip and knee joint replacements, surgical devices and hospital beds.
Right. This is in fact one of the companies that we've owned in a long time portfolio in the US. So it's a core holding for us. It really is the global leader in terms of medical technology, and more especially all of those surgical tools.
The market cap here is $41.4 billion, price to earnings ratio of 26.1, and a dividend yield here of 1.4%. You mentioned the Warsaw component, Indiana, and that Stryker is also headquartered out of that territory.
Well, a few of them. Stryker, I think, is different. It's
Michigan.
It's the one that the
Zimmer's
Mr. Stryker who started
Zimmer
it
is
out
the
of.
one that is out of
Correct.
Indiana, Warsaw.
But it's close. I mean, Michigan is the state next door, as far as I'm aware. Yeah.
So, yeah, my US geography isn't that
In
good.
that Chicago area.
But the point is, this was started by an entrepreneur that wanted to compete against the likes of DePuy and Zimmer. He did it very well. He started with a bunch of products and diversified, and today it's a very diversified product range in medical devices. But I think it's also important that we touch on inducements at this point, and that is that for anyone who sells medical devices, it's important to know that you're selling it to a doctor, but a doctor doesn't really buy the product and takes a cost on board. He passes it on to the patient, and the ultimate payer is actually the patient's insurer. So with that brings a very complicated situation when it comes to incentives. Because if the price gets raised a lot, the doctor can make his own or same margin, but ultimately the patient should pay more, and the patient passes on to the insurer, who pays more than what they should. So what this leads to is an industry with higher costs than what it needs to have. And that's a huge problem in the US at the moment. The costs of medical devices and healthcare in general in the US is way too high. The politicians are looking at this.
It's a global problem.
It's a global problem, but even Hillary Clinton is one of her cornerstone issues of her presidency. There'll be more pressure.
Potential presidency.
So there'll be a further issue, a further impact of what the politicians might do when it comes to healthcare costs.
Let's have a look at the share price graph. And Paul, it's obviously done well for you, despite that little downward
Very
tip at the end
nice
here.
run in 2016, and a little bit of a coming off. It got to about $120 a share, but it was really just a results-driven story. So about 40% of this company's earnings come from reconstructive surgery. That's the knees, hips, and so on. Another 35% comes from medical devices and surgical devices. So, for example, they invented or bought the company that invented endoscopy tools, which is the probes that they put into your digestive tract in order to see what's going on inside you, in order to open up stents inside of you, all sorts of complex stuff. They basically invented the electric screwdriver as well, so that you can do, surgical work. Spinal implants is another huge part of the business. And right at the end there you mentioned hospital beds, but that's like, the sort of hospital bed that monitors while you're in intensive care whether you're still breathing.
So an intelligent hospital bed.
Exactly. And the stuff that what do those guys go to pick you up if you've had a car accident?
Ambulances.
Ambulance drivers.
ER,
one of those people. They've got those kits inside of their things as well, cots and stuff that they rush you into the hospital.
Now, you've had this one in your portfolios for a long time.
A long time. We just liked, as I said, this overlap between more spending because of people getting richer, the prosperity effect, and all of the associated spend that's going through the medical environment. These technology-driven companies, you can't beat them.
Do you have anything else to add at this point, JP?
I like it too. I think the inducements is a problem. They've been found guilty before when it comes to inducements.
And they've also had a write back on one or two of their knee and hip replacement joints, where they've had to kind of say, listen, this one's not going to last.
Just explain the inducement scenario.
So once again, if you're a medical device company, you pay for a doctor to go on a nice conference or a nice cruise, so the doctor uses your product and the doctor goes along with it, but your product might be more not as good as maybe the competitor product, but you choose it because of the inducements that the company gives you,
so
and that's one of the issues.
By favorable advancements.
Correct. So there's a new act, the Healthcare Provider Sunshine Act, to put some sunshine on this, to actually put it in the light of day to show
Sounds
what
like
these
the asset
inducements
management
are.
industry.
Yeah, there's a lot of this kind of naughtiness going on, but I think it is a focus, and so the companies are becoming increasingly careful. It turns out now there are laws in the US you're not allowed to give a doctor anything other than like a pizza. you're not allowed to take them on a golf day or send them, movie tickets or anything
Comes
like
back
that.
to the asset management industry. I think you're only allowed
Because
to
the
give 50
research
rand.
shows, that
Something
literally that's
in the
all
order
it
of
takes
50
is
rand
one slice of
price.
pizza to get a physician if you
You're
manage
completely
to
ignoring
actually.
my analogy with the,
But
the
wait,
asset
there's
management
more.
industry. Is there more? Because we've got to call this one.
This
What do you want to
company
say?
also has a big division called Mako, which is robotic surgery. And we're going to talk about intuitive surgical in a minute. That's a huge, huge area of expansion. And the current CEO, Kevin Lobo, came from Mako into Stryker. So it's been given a huge technology boost as a account of that.
Are we going to call it hot or not?
I'm going to call it hot. I like it. Reasonable valuation, good diversified basket of products. Hot.
Hot, Paul?
Yep, hot on this one too.